Hey guys, welcome to Roots, the Unseen Life. As you can tell, I have a guest. This is not Dwayne. Right?
Definitely not.
Mainly because you have hair.
Yeah.
That's it.
But it's covered. So maybe.
Oh, right?
Yeah.
Maybe towards the end of the podcast, you just unravel it, shake free like a lion, and just let loose.
Totally. Just for you guys.
Yeah. Everyone wants that. So this is my friend Odeta. How do I say your last name?
Vuyekure.
Okay.
I know.
It's really
If you
hard.
want to say it the American way, it's Vuyekure.
So say it one more time.
Vuyekure.
So is it French or no?
No, it's got a vibe of French, but East African. I'm from Burundi. Where the origin is, I don't know, but it definitely has that flair.
It has that French little,
yeah.
It's very sophisticated.
Thank you.
I like it.
Thank you. If you want to say my name the proper way, it's Odeta Vuyekure.
Odeta Vuyekure.
Yeah. Odeta Vuyekure.
Vuyekure.
Yeah.
How'd I do?
You did amazing.
Right?
I love it.
I'm a linguist.
You got it.
That's good. So today I want to talk to you about your story.
Yeah.
And so first of all, everyone needs to know, I'm kind of obsessed with Odeta. She knows that's why she's in my house. Lock the door, Chloe. She's not getting out. No, thanks for not doing a restraining order.
You're welcome.
I first met you back in May when I came from Denver to Kansas City to do a women's event.
Yes.
And I remember you're helping lead worship, and all of a sudden I hear this voice. And I'm like, what is that? Yeah. And then not just the voice, like there's zip on you. There's an anointing on you. And I was stunned.
Wow.
I went back and I bragged about you to Dwayne. And I'm like, I met this girl. She's amazing.
Aww.
Not just is she amazing vocally, but just talking to you and hearing your story. And the fact that you're a woman of peace, regardless of all the tragedy, trauma, displacement, all that you've been through. Yeah. There's a level of deep peace, which is evidence of the life of Christ in you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow. Didn't know we were going to get that far. Okay.
Right, girl.
Thank you.
The best. So let's talk about your story.
Yeah.
So Burundi. East Africa.
This little country, like teeny tiny. I think you'd look on the map over there in the corner and go, where is it again? And I'm like, yeah. And I know that when people ask, I'm like, do you know where Kenya is? And Mozambique and Rwanda and Tanzania? Yeah, it's in that area. And they'll just look at me and they'll be like, yeah. Because they've heard of all those names before, right. But I don't think they've actually sat down to look at the map. And I think,
not since junior high.
Yeah. And I think the only reference is if I'm talking to missionaries and they're like, yeah, I've been to Mozambique and did some service there. And I'm like, that's great.
Yeah. There it is.
Thank you.
So you're in that region.
Yeah. I'm in that little region. I was born in Tanzania, so I think as I go along and tell my story, I will do a disclaimer like this has been an ongoing kind of process of connecting the pieces.
Yeah.
And I think that 10 years ago, what I knew of my family is just a portion of what I know now, and it's constantly unfolding as my parents start to heal, as our community starts to heal. More stories are being shared and more little nuggets are being given that I can kind of piece the puzzle together. Right. And so I say I was born in Burundi, but I was really born in Tanzania, refugee camp out in Tanzania where my family had fled from the genocide that was going on that had been kind of trickling throughout the years. My family had escaped, and that was where kind of they landed as they waited upon paperwork and government and all of that to kind of get situated of where they can go and relocate to.
So the refugee camp was in Tanzania.
It was in Tanzania.
And living in tents, living in warehouses.
I don't even know that.
Yeah.
I'm just now starting to be able to inquire of my mom like actual details because if you get connected with other Burundian refugees, you you'll hear from the young ones that like, we really don't know our story. It's just now that the resurgence of like, we really need to know what happened.
Right.
But the regret and the parents being reluctant to share because of the pain and the trauma is so evident that they'll just be like, why do you want to unbury the dead?
Right.
Why do you want to do that? Why would you even want to talk about that? Let's just forget about it. Forget that it's ever happened. Like, let's keep moving forward.
Yeah.
But we so desperately want those stories because they're so important.
Very important.
Yeah. And so my family, escaped that. And it's just now that we are talking about it. And my mom would say, she just found out that my uncle, her side of the family, that they still exist.
Really?
Yeah. It's been 21 years. We came to the States when I was 3. It's been 21 years, and my mom always thought that there was no one left from her side of the family.
And she just found out.
She just found out.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was a God-sent gift. She finally had the courage and the bravery to actually go, because I've been longing to go back to Burundi. I want to see where I'm from. I want to see where I came from. I've seen pictures. I've heard stories. I want to go, but it's always been discouraged because it's like, well, you don't know what it was like.
Right.
It's not a safe place. We'll hear stories of people who have gone back and didn't return just because how things go down, whether somebody gets poisoned, something happens, they get sick, they end up dying there. Like they'll always tell all those stories, and so my mom heavily discouraged even me like wanting to go back. She's like, it's not safe. Maybe sometime, another time. And so when she told me that she was going, I was like, excuse me, why the sudden change? And why am I not invited? Like, you didn't tell me. She's like, oh, I've been saving up money. And then she goes to tell me, I found out that my brother might still be alive.
Wow.
And I was like, your brother? Like, I didn't know you had a brother. And then she'll share, oh, I had a lot of siblings. And my dad, she talks about her dad. And you can kind of see her kind of go off into this place. And I just love watching her face, like, recount of all those memories. She's talking about her dad, how he was gentle. He had 2 wives. And I'm talking about the brother of another mother, my other mother, because her mother passed away when she was really little. So now I'm hearing all the little stories of her history. And I'm like, this is amazing. Keep going. Her mother passed away when she was really little, and then her dad remarried and had another wife, and then she has all of these siblings. And she found out that her brother, who had been my uncle, was still alive, and he managed to find a way to contact her.
Unbelievable.
And then you always get the stories of like, oh, you got Africans calling you, they just want money, and it's a scam. The Prince of Nigeria is calling you, and he wants, $8,000 to help him get out of prison.
Right.
And I think, and my mom, she tested it out, and sure enough, like, the stories connected, and she was like, no, that's my brother. And she wanted to go see him. So this summer, she went and flew with my uncle on my dad's side and went to Burundi and met her brother for the first time.
Wow.
And we're still unpacking that.
Okay, that's a huge big deal.
I know.
I mean, that does clearly communicate the tragedy of the loss.
Yeah.
To think you've lost every living relative. You find out there's one.
Yeah.
And on your dad's side, there are very
few. My uncles are, no, on my dad's side, it's almost like everybody's alive.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. My dad's, and I always wondered, like, what did that do to my mom?
Yeah.
Where you yourself have nobody, and you've clinged to your husband, right? Like, his family becomes your family, but, they're not. They are, but you have a whole heritage that's missing. Yeah. And so my uncles are on my dad's side. They're alive. I have aunts and their spouses, and I know my grandmother. I don't know my grandfather, but I know this little clan of this side, and nothing. over on this side.
Now, we're going to be real clear here. Yeah. This isn't like they died of diabetes. We're talking this is the result of genocide.
Yeah, this is a result of neighbor against neighbor. This is a result of fleeing and the casualties of fleeing for your life.
Yeah.
And she even managed to tell me the story of how she wasn't found. I think she was out in the field, and a worker or somebody close by was telling her, like, hey, you need to get out of the field. There are people coming. You need to go. You need to go. And she managed to go and stay with those people and stay hidden. And from then she's like, I never saw my family again.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That's
like, how do you
recover from that?
Do you? I mean, I don't know. I don't know that you do. I don't know. And so you
understand why she doesn't talk about it.
Yeah. And so I have no grid, from the bits and pieces that she gives me. Then, fast forward to, and now we're in a refugee camp and we're being relocated to America.
And not
That's
just
the only part I know.
And Northern Africa, it's hot.
Yeah.
So, and now you're relocated to Iowa. That's huge.
Iowa.
Yeah.
Oh man, you don't know how many prayers I have prayed. Like, Lord, if anywhere, like, my heart, like Europe. Oh my gosh, I would have thrived. Like, who knows? Like, Canada, maybe. I don't know. But I was like, anywhere but Iowa. The corn, the pigs, the Midwest,
right?
Gridlocked.
Yeah.
The people.
So, according to the papers, you were 3.
I was 3. Yeah.
Okay.
And crazy thing, when I had gone back home a couple months ago, I was going through papers to help my brother find something for his application for getting his braces.
Yeah.
Going to get surgery for his jaw. And I found paperworks, and they're like, when you see old papers, like, they're just thin, like,
yeah,
they're so delicate.
Yes.
I'm looking and I see pictures of me when I was a baby, which I have no photos.
Wow.
Of being a child.
Yeah.
Baby. I have photos probably from the age of 6 and up, but nothing down. And I'm going through the photos and I'm like, I see me as a baby and I'm cute. Like, I'm cute. I got a little stank face, but I'm cute. And I see a picture of my mom. I see a picture of my dad. I see a picture of my brother. And then the charter, I think that's what you call it, but it's all the names of the refugees who are going to be relocated and put on the same, I think it was a plane, same plane as us.
Yeah.
And I'm reading the names and I'm like, this is a treasure. I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
Ever in my life. And I'm reading all the names. I'm like, this is amazing. There had to be like 300, 400 people on that list. And I was like, I've never seen this before, nor have my parents ever talked about it.
Wow.
This is wild.
It's wild.
Yeah. So I'm still piecing together that story. But yeah, we relocated to Iowa.
Okay, that's insane. So you're so fascinating that there's so many things I want to talk to you about.
Thank you. I think.
No, for sure. I'm very fascinated by your life and your story and your way and your godliness, all of that. But let's talk about being an immigrant.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking earlier, like going to school.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because you didn't speak English until you got to school.
Yeah. I had to learn English, and where I learned English was literally at school or around the friends that I was with when I wasn't at school.
Right.
And so you got to think, coming from, what I loved about living in Iowa is that when we were relocated, we were put amongst other refugees.
Right.
Like, we just knew how to find each other. And so we lived at this apartment complex. I think it was called Osada or the Brown Apartments. I think these were called the Brown Apartments before we moved to another apartment.
Okay.
And this is like low income, like project type area. That's where all of us ended up being. And And so living in that apartment complex, there's tons of immigrants there, but nonetheless, we were still close with all the other refugees,
right?
All the other Burundians. So my parents still had some type of familiarity, with where they were, who they were with.
And everyone's story is similar to yours.
Similar, yeah.
And so the kid you're playing with,
have the same story as mine.
Same story and the same probably parenting style to a degree of leave the past in the past. And
we are not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
And bitterness looks different in a lot of people.
Yeah.
Hurt looks different in a lot of people, and you just don't know what their interactions were prior to being. So you don't know what kind of drama they may have had, like any of that. Right. And so
you don't
everything
ask.
You're watching. No. Do you want to get in trouble? Like, no, you don't ask, you just watch. And I was one of those kids. I just watched how people would interact, how people would talk to one another, what they would say, the bits and pieces I could get. And I'd be like, okay, collecting. Yeah. So in that context, I learned Kirundi and my culture. And then we would be shipped off into a bus.
Yeah.
Into a completely different area. Yeah. And all throughout elementary school.
Completely different culture now. So you're straddling two cultures.
Yeah. And it was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough from what I could remember. It was rough. Not being totally African, because me going to school, to an American school to learn English, I'm learning new ways of interacting with people, this new language that has emphasis on different things,
Yeah.
And then come back and it's like, that's not the way we talk. That's not the way we, interact with one another. And now I'm trying to straddle how to be me, but not me. Don't be too me.
Right.
But I don't even know me because I'm still developing.
Right. Very complicated.
So I'm learning English for the first time and I'm trying to get it perfect, because I didn't want to be bullied. There was a lot of things that kids would say, especially meeting an immigrant for the first time and a refugee at that.
Yeah.
And all of the stereotypes that come with that, and being African in a white context, a Midwestern white context.
Right.
And then interacting with all the different cultures, the African Americans, the Mexicans. Oh gosh, straddling that. I think I just went inward.
Yeah.
Like I went in, and it was when I could be pulled out. I don't know if I was quite me. I just had to be.
Yeah.
So when kids would laugh at a joke, I would laugh at it too, and then I would pick it up like, oh, when this is made, you laugh. When da 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 looks like this, you smile. All of those things,
which would be exhausting.
Yeah,
like the constant antenna up, learning.
Yeah,
because no one wants to be rejected and outcasts.
No,
and
I would see what other kids would do to ones who didn't quite fit in. Yeah. I saw it.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through that.
So how has that impacted the way you relate to people today?
Ooh. It's still unfolding.
Yeah.
I think I learned from a young age I'm an internal processor. And I watch. And I'm okay with being quiet. And sometimes people, I think just recently, someone said to me, your silence speaks more than what you think is actually like what you're doing. And normally I think my silence, I'm watching, I'm observing, I'm taking in information.
You're learning. Yeah.
And I'm processing. Yeah. I'm like a really, really deep processor, to my own detriment sometimes. And I've had to learn to speak, like to actually use my voice. Like, hey, you've got an opinion.
Right.
And coming from a background of like, you don't necessarily speak unless you're spoken to.
Right.
Or addressed. Yeah. Or even like permitted, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then what you have to say is like, you're a kid too. So what could you say that would be of value to this conversation right now that the adults are having? You know?
Yeah.
And so I've always functioned in that. And so I'm learning to use my voice to actually speak that the things that I am processing have value and can be laid upon the table.
Yeah.
And I don't need somebody to tell me, hey, you can speak now, to speak.
Right. Which is a huge cultural difference.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like a little bit of how I've been kind of functioning and processing. I don't know. I think I talked to a friend. I told a friend recently, they were like, so like, because people boast about who they are. This is who I am. This is me. This is
right.
And I was like, you know, I'm going to be really honest. I don't know me. I don't know who I am. And I know it's probably counter to say I learn me through other people, because a lot of people can get lost in that.
Sure.
But I say it to be true to me because I've been in situations that have been completely new, and I am interacting in that scenario the way that how I would respond is a completely new way to me, because I've never been in that scenario, right?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so when someone is interacting with me or with me as I'm responding to that scenario, they see a different side of me that they've never seen before. I then go, I've never seen that side of me either.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when I say I'm learning me, and I learn me through other people, is because they're seeing me outside of my own process. And they tell me, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that about myself. Thank you. Now I know. Like, now I know I like to do that. Or now I know that that's a deficiency in me that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And little things like that. So I live low key. I don't like to rush into things.
Yeah.
And I'm very cautious. And I don't know if that's a positive thing or a negative thing.
Sure.
But I'm very cautious and calculated. Because
yet here's what's interesting to me: cautious and calculated, but yet the way, like you're on staff with the International House of Prayer, and so how is it you can be cautious and calculated yet so deep and spontaneous with singing?
I think the freedom that I have in the Lord has unlocked a lot of me. I think the beautiful thing of like Psalm 139 of the Lord knowing us is fearfully like eerie, but then there's this like underlying like, oh, cool, right? Like it's good to be known. And so to answer that question, I don't know. I think there's a place in where I can be outside of myself, of thinking about me, the cautious and calculated of like, how is this person going to respond? How are they receiving me? How do I look? All of this like way of functioning can be so robotic.
Sure.
But in singing, oh my gosh, I love singing because there's a place where I can go where I it's thoughtful, but I'm not thinking. It's, I don't know. I don't know if magic is the right term, but like it's this free space of like, you can do anything kind of thing. And so, and where I'm anchored is the word.
Right.
And the word is living and active, and it has frames. Yeah. It has frame, it has picture, it's a new world. And so I get to literally, it's almost like beam me up, Scotty. Like I get to experience a new world and go, how does this work? And experiment. Yeah. And I don't know. And I don't have to think about how am I being right now?
Right. And having seen you express that way, the way that God's designed you, It's stunning.
Thank you.
It's so beautiful, and there is so much freedom in it. And so I think of like our citizenship is in heaven.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So yeah, you don't fully fit here, you don't fully fit there. Are you from Burundi? Yes. Are you from the States? Yes. But you're in, it sounds so Christian bumper sticker, but in him, therein lies your freedom.
Yeah, I love that you bring up the citizenship in heaven. I had to learn that.
Yeah.
When I saw that in the word, and I was like, oh my gosh, Abraham is an immigrant.
Right.
All of these people are immigrants, constantly moving. I was like, my story is not far off.
Right.
Like and that's where it all opened up. I was like, I'm not a stranger. This life that I'm living is so not foreign. I actually fit in.
That's such a good point.
Perfectly.
Yes.
And that is where I go, now I get to learn. Like,
yeah.
And so when you go into the gospel and Jesus is talking about the kingdom is like this. The kingdom is like this. And he's painting a picture of this other world.
Yeah.
I go there. I'm like, tell me again of what that kingdom is like.
Oh, that's
because
beautiful.
That's my home. And now it makes sense of why I feel so foreign. Like my natural context of not quite African American, not quite African, not quite American, I'm black, I'm whatever, all of the little boxes that we can put ourselves in and feeling foreign,
right?
Overlay that in the Bible, there you go. Yeah. You're foreign.
Yeah.
Why? Because you were made for something else. So my physical reality, my actual reality actually pushed me into the bigger reality of what the Lord is trying to go, you all don't belong here.
Right.
Like
so your natural position actually caused you to be able to go deeper in this than maybe someone who was raised in Iowa with a white picket fence and went to the same school their whole life. Where and you're like, I get this.
Yeah, I get it. Because even middle school, I went to 3 different middle schools. I went to 4 different high schools.
That's a lot.
Freshman year, I was at Prairie. Like, oh my goodness. Then I went to Washington. Then I went to Kennedy High School. Then I finally graduated at Jefferson High School. All met different people. How I interacted with people, I literally was like, yo, deuces, I'm not going to be here long enough even to make friends. So some friends I solidified. Others, I was just like, that's not going to faze me. Like,
right.
It's not that big of a deal, Odeta. Like, you can die on this hill. You're probably going to be gone in like 3 months. It's okay. You can let go of that issue right now.
Yeah.
And I would just migrate. And finally I graduated and I was like, whoa, okay. Like, who has the story of going to 4 different high schools? Like, every single year I went to a different high school.
Right. Yeah.
Talk about extracurricular activities that I couldn't do. And the teams that I would compete with were the teams that I was on. And interacting with that. And so, it just put a bigger emphasis on like not belonging.
Yeah.
And then going, where do I belong?
Yeah.
And Jesus going, with me.
That's
up
so
here.
good.
And it just hedged me in. And I was like, I know what. And Jesus, you were a refugee? What?
Yeah.
Jesus, your family was persecuted? What? Jesus, in that time, there was a whole genocide of children? What?
Right.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Oh my gosh. We're not as different as I thought we would be.
Yeah.
God, you're not as foreign as I thought you would be. You're not this God who's looking down and going, like, you're not this tyrant who's causing these issues. And it's like, no. You know exactly what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And I can talk to you about these things of not feeling quite family or not feeling. I can talk to you about being a stranger. I can talk to you about not having friends.
Right.
But having friends.
When it talks in the word about being kind to the immigrant, because God was an immigrant.
Yeah. And God is kind.
And he's kind and he cares.
I got you out of Egypt.
Yeah.
So that I can bring you into another country. And eventually I'm going to bring more people to you. I need you to know how our family is going to operate.
Yeah.
So when I give you these 10 commandments, it's not this like these rules that you must abide by. It's actually how my kingdom works.
Right.
I'm giving you the documents, the constitution of how my household is going to conduct themselves. That's and to so foreigners, you're going to be kind.
Yeah.
You're going to be just. You're going to show them that in this country, we know how to treat people. Why? Yeah. Because you just came from a context of where you were enslaved.
Right.
For 400 years. You, of all people, should know better. It's that kind of thing. Like a dad who goes, you should know better.
Right. Right.
What did I just get you out of? And what are you doing? You know better. You know what I mean? And so it's not these rules. It's, hey, for the kingdom that I am establishing and my citizens, this is how we conduct each other, like with one another. Yeah. This is how my family is going to operate. And so when I read the gospel and Jesus is talking about the kingdom, I see it as the Father going, this is how my family operates.
So good.
I'm inviting you into how my family is going to conduct themselves. Yeah. How we're going to treat foreigners. Yeah. How we're going to treat strangers. Yeah. How we're going to treat our little ones, our spouses, our brothers and sisters. This is how we treat one another. And when you go against that, it's bearing an image on me that that's not how we do things. Right. That's not how priests and kings operate. Not my house. Right. You know, and so that's kind of how I read the gospel now. I'm like, what did Dad say? Blessed are those who mourn. Oh, you're mourning. Why are you mourning? Are you okay? I can actually not run away from, oh my gosh, you're mourning too. Right. Oh my gosh, you're mourning. Yeah. That's okay.
We talked, or I can't remember who it was. Someone at the last event we did talked about pain. And you started a chorus. Who told you couldn't cry? I'm the man of sorrows. Yeah. And it was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. The man of sorrows. We're so quick to shake things off and move on and not sit with discomfort and pain. Yeah. And yet here he is, the man of sorrows. Yeah. And so, I mean, I know we're just talking kind of all over the place.
No, I love it because that's the way my brain works. I can't keep a straight line.
We go in circles.
Oh, love it.
So it's, that chorus you're saying was amazing. Do you have any of your music recorded anywhere?
Besides the prayer room?
Like, first of all, when are you writing your book? And second of all, when are you doing a CD? Because here I am, I'm waiting.
Okay, well, one, I do have a CD. A CD. Do we even say CDs anymore?
I don't know.
I got an EP.
Okay. I'm 52. I don't know.
Okay.
Tell me.
It's okay. It's crazy because I said I love to visit old people. But I made a new friend. His name is Mr. J, and I just sit with him and I talk with him, and I absolutely adore him. And we were just talking music. He's an artist. He's a painter. He does it all. And I told him, I was like, Mr. J, I have music out because he knows I sing now. And we're slowly like getting to know each other. So like, I have music I can show you. And I played my album or my EP, and he just sat back with my phone on his chest and he just breathed it in.
Oh,
and I was like,
precious.
Oh my gosh, I'm seeing someone like actually like genuinely like it, express it without that like, oh my gosh, it's so good, like, but did you sit down and listen to it? And I saw him and he goes, I've never heard anything like this before.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, oh, okay, we're onto something. Anyways, fast forward, I have an EP. It's called Heritage. I did it last year. I worked on it last year with Judah Earl. Yeah. Who is amazing.
Yeah. Highly gifted.
Yeah.
Heritage. Okay, so
Heritage. But it's literally the kind of me coming to terms with, I have an inheritance, not only in God, but also kind of going back to the roots of going, where am I from again? What kind of people are we? 2 years ago, I prayed for the first time on the mic specifically for my country.
Yeah.
And I wept.
Yeah.
Because I was like, Lord, you got me. I'm here. I'm with you. And you don't push away anything about me. Like, my story is very important to you. But I prayed, like, do you have an inheritance of my whole nation?
Yeah.
Can you? And I wept. I was like, can you reach down and heal this land? Because we love you. I grew up with, if you ask the kids that I grew up with, like, what does your dad do? My dad's a pastor. Every dad is a pastor. Upon conversion, they became pastors. They didn't, and I'll be like, what seminary did you go to? Like, they didn't go to school. They're just pastors, but they believe in Jesus. And so faith is literally what has kept us together.
Yeah.
Our belief in God
Yeah.
is what kept us together.
That's beautiful.
It's what's hedged me in.
Yeah.
And so growing up now, I'm like, Lord, I see the fruit and the beauty and the blossoming of myself that you have established. Please grab a hold of my country.
Yes.
Bring them into the
Amen.
kingdom. Bring them all into the kingdom.
Amen.
And so upon that, it kind of just started the going back and going, oh yeah, I grew up in an African choir. I grew up despising it because I realized I could sing. Flips hair. Like, and I didn't like the way they were singing.
my voice. I'm a solo artist.
I'm not blending in with y'all. Like, no. And I despised it. But then I looked back and I'm like, but we were singing rich things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was an intrinsic sound that's inherently us. And so.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I was like, okay, I pitched it to Judah. And I was like, I know these people, because he wanted to work on a project or something. And I pitched it to Judah. I was like, I know these people. Like, I used to have this choir. Like, if you want to work on something, like, I'll send them. Yeah. I'll send you their information and y'all can do something. And then he called me. He's like, I got an idea and I need your help. And I was like, no. I'll send you them. Like, work with them. I'm sure you. And he goes, no. I want to work on it with you. I went into the studio. He played me like a minute of it. I sat down, I grabbed my journal, and I started writing in Kirundi. I've never written in Kirundi.
Oh my goodness.
Ever. And it inspired me to pick up my Bible in Kirundi and look up the Psalms in Kirundi and see the richness. And I was like, this whole album is going to be in Kirundi.
That's amazing.
And we did it in like a few months. I do not write songs like that. You know what I mean? But it was all in Kirundi. We had the choir actually come and they sang, and we sang the Psalms. And it's literally if you can translate it. I've already translated. It's all over my Instagram, but it's the journey of a pilgrim.
That's beautiful.
And their cry out for the Lord and the different stages of belief in God and crying out for God and finally reaching Mount Zion.
So where can people listen to this?
On Apple Music, on Spotify, on YouTube. It's called Heritage EP. And you can just look up Judah Earl or type in Odeta and you'll find it. And it's in my language.
Amazing.
But I think it's universal.
Hey, everyone. You heard that.
Listen to it.
Go listen to it.
Please.
And then the book's coming. You don't know that yet, but the book is coming.
I don't know. I don't think I'm a very good writer.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
You got a story that needs to be told.
Love that for me.
Yeah. I'm deciding. I'm your friend telling you, no, this is you.
Thank you. We all need that friend to tell us.
All right. Well, this has been awesome.
Thank you.
My goodness, it's been amazing. So you guys, this is called Roots, the Unseen Life. You have an unseen life, obviously.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much for letting us into your soul.
Thank you.
Sharing your story and just encouraging us.
Thank you.
You had some good little nuggets there.
Aww.
But the kingdom, that's beautiful.
The kingdom.
All right. That's it, guys. Check out Heritage.